Welcome to Get on the Ark. I'm Darren Conrad, your host. I'm here with Rick Hill. Welcome, Rick.
Thank you. I'm shutting my watch off. I had my cell phone shut off, but now my watch was buzzing me, and I thought, man,
Oh yeah,
that's good to be here. That's the second time on your show.
Yeah,
and John's been on the show as well, so we're trying to get a little word out on this thing, man.
Yeah. Well, it's the journey, and you've got an incredible journey with your story, your testimony. If we could start kind of with your testimony. I know you were a young kid, but when you first met Jesus and how that changed your life, and then take us from there.
Yeah, okay. Kind of an interesting story where I broke up in I was born into a broken household. So my mother raised 4 little hoodlums, and in Detroit, that's not an easy city to raise them in. And one night she took us to a Billy Graham crusade. Now you're probably more familiar with Franklin Graham, but Billy Graham was, of course, his father. And I didn't know who he was. I was 7 years old. So this is about 1957 when I went to this crusade, and she puts us in this row, of seats, 4 and hers 5. And she said, for some odd reason, you weren't fidgety. She said, you moved to the front of your seat like that, and you just stared at him for nearly the whole thing. And we were way up in the nosebleed, way up in the high part of this was Cobo Hall. And he gave his altar call. And here's what I remember he said: if you want to see Jesus, you need to come forward and give your life to Christ. I looked around. My mom said I stood up, walked past her, got on the, how it's down to the lower part of the room. And I never looked back. And she said, you weren't concerned about ever getting back to us. You weren't upset. You weren't crying. You didn't yell after us. You just zoomed. So she said, I told my older brother to watch the other kids. And she said, I'm, running down the steps, and I got all the way to the front, and a counselor talked to me, and then she went with them, and they prayed with us and everything. So we get in the car, and she says, Ricky, why weren't you afraid to go up there this is a big room with a lot of people? And I said, well, Jesus was supposed to be there. And she said, well, what do you mean Jesus is supposed to be? And I said, he said, and I repeated what Billy Graham had said. And I said, I got there and I was looking, and I didn't see anybody that looked like Jesus. And so, there was a nice guy there that talked to us. But I was ready. If Jesus had been there and it was to take me to heaven, gone. Wow. I wouldn't have looked back 1 second. And then I went to Bible college and seminary, and it was in seminary. Now that's a segue.
Yeah.
When I had graduated, I was the principal of a Christian day school in New Ulm, Minnesota. And we started the school in the church. And one summer, I just didn't feel right, didn't feel good. And I went to the doctor, and it did some tests and everything. He says, well, I think, we live near Rochester, Minnesota. It's not too far away, 2 or 3 hour drive. I'm going to send you over to the Mayo Clinic, because, that's famous worldwide. And I know the guys over there, and I think they'll take a look at you. So I'm speeding the story up, but I got to the Mayo Clinic, and they ran tests. Now, in those days, they didn't have screens like, the x-rays we have today. Didn't have them. So they did exploratory surgery. And what I mean by that is you keep cutting if you keep finding. So they started right here and they started south and got almost all the way down. I got a scar about that long. And they took out all this stuff, put it on a towel and set it aside. I mean, I've seen a video of the surgery and not of mine, but a surgery like that. And they were brutal. I mean, just brutal. And they cut lymph nodes off from along your spine, but they start at the top, this side. So all the way down, cut, take a lymph node, send it to the lab. There was a loudspeaker in there, and the loudspeaker said, positive. Well, keep cutting. And I mean, they got eventually, not on that surgery, it was subsequent surgery. They operated on my neck and found cancer. They operated on my feet and they found cancer. So I don't know about you, but that's about my real estate. I mean, there's not too much more to cut when you're here and all that. So they basically sewed me up, and you can imagine that surgery lasted 8.5 hours. And I finally, 2 days later, kind of came out of it, and they had me on morphine. That's a day at the beach. You know, I don't know how people get addicted to stuff like that, because I mean, it took the pain away. I'll give you that. But you just felt so awful, you know, so disconnected from life. You're just kind of, those deals. And after I came to, the doctor comes in, the chemotherapist came in for the chat. You know what I mean? The sitting on the edge of your bed like this, telling you how life is going to go. And he said, boy, I got to be honest with you. There wasn't much. We looked at, you don't have cancer there. You're full of cancer. Wow. And I said, golly, you know, I work for God. This shouldn't be happening. And he said, well, I don't know about that, but we're going to start. That was Friday. We're going to start chemo on Monday. But the way he said it was not convincing. He said, well, we've like that. We got some chemo, but we'll do the best we can, which meant even a stupid guy would say, I ain't going to make it. You know, so here is where the story turns. If I were writing a screenplay right now, this is called The Inciting Incident. Like a lot of inciting incidents, they're not graphic. They're not big. They aren't bombs going off, planes crashing, people falling off no. This was a letter, one of the little letters you could send, with a 10-cent stamp on it. So that shows you what year it was, 1974. And I opened the letter and it said, Dear Rick, if you want to live, you are going to have to leave the Mayo Clinic.
Wow.
Yeah, wow is right. I mean, first of all, who's got the guts to send a letter like that, so cryptic? You know, now I knew the guy. He was a Baptist pastor, and he used to come to our seminary and speak in chapel. And he was a renegade. A lot of people didn't like him. I did. I thought he was all right, but he really didn't think in separation of church and state is a good thing. He said, you got to get involved. You got to stand against evil when you find it. And, you know, he was a member of John Birch Society. And they're like MAGA only on steroids, if you know what I mean.
Right on. These
people have got the volume turned up. So I had the guy's phone number. I called him and I said, John, you know, I grew up in Detroit. So what I wanted to ask him was, what are you smoking? You know, what do you mean leave the Mayo Clinic? He says, well, I've been following your case and there are clinics around the world, not here in America yet, where they really understand your immune system. And they don't at the Mayo Clinic. I said, what are you talking about? It's a citadel of modern medicine. He said, I agree with that. Medicine? Yeah. Surgery? Yeah. But not your immune system. And I said, well, this is getting weirder by the minute. I said, where do you think I ought to go, John? He said, well, you fly into San Diego. And I said, yeah. Then he said, yeah, you get on a bus and you're going to go down to Tijuana. I said, now, let me see if I'm taking notes. My family is all in town because they came to see who gets the gold watch. They came to say goodbye to me. And you want me to say tonight when I get back home, I'm going to leave the Mayo Clinic, go to TJ, and eat chiclets, huh? I mean, why do you think I'm going there? He said, well, are you sitting down? Nothing good comes after that question. That is a sphincter tightening event when someone says, are you sitting down? Yeah, John, I'm sitting down. He said, all right, this benefit that you're going to get is made out of natural organic food. And I said, okay, all right. I guess a point for there. I said, what food? He said, apricots. And I said, now, John, that's just stupid because I like apricots and I eat them a lot, especially in season. I said, I still have terminal cancer. So evidently I'm going a long ways to get what never worked. No, he said, you did it wrong. I said, what do you, I should hold the apricot in my left hand and eat it? What are you talking about doing wrong? He said, no, inside the apricot is a little seed inside the pit. And it looks like an almond, but it doesn't taste like an almond. He said, they're very bitter. Apple seeds taste just like these. I mean, they're bitter like this, and they have that amaretto finish to them. And I said, well, what am I supposed to do? Just sit down and eat a bunch of seeds? He said, no. Fact of the business is they make an oil from it, and they inject that into your veins.
Wow.
Can you imagine telling your family? So I said, well, John, I'll tell you what I will do. You've taken the time to write me and talk to me on the phone. And sounds like a crazy thing to me, but I'm going to go see the chemotherapist this afternoon. And I'm going to ask him about, had he ever heard of this thing? He said, all right, but don't expect a glowing reception. So my wife drove me to the hospital, got an emergency 15-minute window, and I told him what I told you. And I said, if you were me, what would you do right now? And he leaned back in his chair, kind of measures me up, and he said, tell you what, it is warm in Tijuana this time of year. And I thought, what? I mean, not only did I get a crazy letter, but now I got a $300,000 a year, chemotherapist telling me it's warm weather in Tijuana. Like, go. It's cold in Minnesota already. So I said, all right, message delivered, Doc. I appreciate your honesty. I'll talk to my family tonight. All the way back to the house, I'm thinking, I'm going to get killed. I'll die way before the chemo gets me. So after dinner that night, I again explained to them what I explained to you. I looked up and everybody around the table was like this. Just like that. And my older brother, Sam Hill, What in the Sam Hill you doing? Stood up and he said, Ricky, we always knew you were stupid. We just didn't know how stupid. Wow. And I went to everybody in my family and looked at them like, and they all went. I said, okay, well, not sure what to do here. Got to my father-in-law. He stood up. He's about your size, big guy, contractor type, had Caterpillar tractors, you know. And he said, I like it. I'll take him down there and I'll help pay for it. I said, deal. Now, this was in one day. The crazy letter, the crazy chemotherapy guy, and my father-in-law, it wasn't even family, you know, direct. And I thought of a Bible story that I kind of like. It was about Abraham when he had Isaac didn't have a wife yet. Abraham wanted to get a wife for him, but not in that neighborhood. I mean, today you better not say that. Yeah. And he said, but the Lord spoke to me last night, and I want you to get a couple camels, load them with jewelry. Abraham had money. So in go the golden cups and the jewel, you know, the bracelets and the necklaces and the diamonds and all that. And he said, I want you to go to the city of our fathers. And there will be a well when you come down the road, and there'll be a beautiful woman at the well. And if she offers you a drink and then looks over your shoulder at your camels and says, your camels look thirsty. Now, this little trip that they took was 450 miles. Wow. With camels and the guys walking, you know. That took about a month to make that trip. So were they thirsty? Yeah. Were they dirty? Yeah. Were they a little disgusted that they hadn't maybe asked more questions before leaving town? I think so. So they get to the well, and there's a woman there, young, pretty. He walks up and looks at her, and she smiles and says, you look thirsty. Let me get you some water. Oh, wait a minute. Are those your camels over there? He went, yeah, those are mine. He knew he had the deal. And so when the camels are walking over, the clanking is going on from the golden bowls and all this stuff. And he said, the Lord my God spoke to me, and Father Abraham would like to get a woman like you to marry his son, Isaac. And if you want to serve the Lord our God, we want you to come with us, and you'll be taken care of, as you heard when we were walking over. So, you know, sweeten the pie a little for the deal. But here's the point. When they got back, Eliezer says to him, 450 miles, you know. What were you thinking that whole time? Did you really think you'd find this woman? And the servant said, I being in the way, the Lord led me. Because I was in the will of God, I knew that I was being led. Now, brother, if you take that crazy letter I got, you would have probably, well, you might not, but most people would have ripped it up into shreds, wouldn't even have opened it. Then the chemotherapist, it is warm in Tijuana. I'm going, you know, what is happening to me? And then thirdly, my family pretty much disowns me. And my father-in-law rides in on a horse and says, hop on. And we go to Tijuana, Mexico 2 days later. And I'm telling you, I went down the rabbit hole. Remember, Detroit, Michigan grew up a little Fonzie,
Yeah.
bad guy.
Wow.
I had the Fonz hairdo. I had the long leather jacket. The clothes were late to go before my heart did. I had to look like a hoodlum as long as I could. And I just had to say, look at what's happened to me in 24 hours. I'm going. I get down there, meet with Dr. Contreras right away. And he's a prince. The hospital is still there. 50 years later. Yeah. In fact, I was there 2 days ago with John. John and I went down there to talk to Dr. Contreras. And Dr. Contreras, again, maybe you could call this number 4 crazy talk. He says to me, before we do anything here, I want to ask you, are you willing to do what we ask you to do here to get well? I said, Doc, I don't know you from Adam. I said, you might think hanging by my toenails, and eating Jell-O might cure me. I said, I don't know. And he said, well, here's what it is, Rick. I'm an MD. I'm a Christian man. I worked in the United States at Boston's Children, and we're getting people well, but their life has to change. And I'm asking if you're that man, because what we do here is participatory medicine. It isn't what we're going to do to you. Now, at the Mayo Clinic, I learned what they did to me. Lots of surgery and getting fixing to do chemotherapy, which I didn't do. So he said, if you don't help me, I will fail. And you could die. So let me ask again. Otherwise, take the money you brought and go back home. And I said, I'm willing to make that commitment, Doc. The reason, I told him the crazy 3 stories. And I said, plus my father-in-law has brought me all this way. First Baptist Church in New Ulm pitched in to get the rest of the money. Clearly, Doc, I should be here. But if you think, now here's for your listeners. If you think that I had more faith in that little 2x4 clinic, in that shambles of a town back then, than I did in the Mayo Clinic, when I left to fly down there, my wife got on the plane to say goodbye. Believe it or not, they let her on. And she came up and we're both in tears. And I said, I think this is a one-way trip. Just being honest. And if you've been to the seminar, I call it the seminar, where they say, unless you believe, unless you know in your heart, and I being in the way, I was being led. Did it make sense to me? Nope. So the next day I go in for my treatment and they took one of these, drew it out in a needle right there, 3 grams, enough to kill a human. Our government says. Right. I took 2 of those in one day, just boom, boom. So I get the shot. I take a really important part of the program, the pro-enzymes. Can you read that? Yeah, pro-enzymes. Reason being, in fact, that's, you're dealing with an old guy here. 10 and 2. And if you look at my iPhone, what do I have on here? I have 10 and 2 highlighted every day. See? Mm-hmm. So if I'm walking around the house and my alarm goes off, Sue says, take your enzymes. because you're supposed to take these between meals. They're not designed to digest food. They're designed to digest protein that has formed on the front of cancer cells to hide. And when this dissolves the protein, now your immune system can see the cancer cells and attack. That's the first line of defense. Chymotrypsin enzymes that even your mother gave you when you were in the womb, 2 months in, you developed some of these cells. And she, from her pancreas, flooded you through the umbilical cord with chymotrypsin. But when I was 24 and at the Mayo Clinic, I looked down, no umbilical cord. Where's mom when I need her? So this was my mom, proenzyme. So they give me the shot. They give me a bunch of these enzymes, and they give me something that Muhammad Ali took before every fight, and that's B15, pangamic acid. It oxygenates your system. And cancer cells are anaerobic. They don't like oxygen. And it gets them nearer to apoptosis, I'm told. So here's what's confusing to people. Could it be that easy? I mean, look at the science that the Mayo Clinic had to come up with chemo and the surgery. I'm talking about something that costs me now maintenance dosage, about $1 a day. And the problem with it, because people ask me 2 questions. One is, if this is so good, why doesn't my family doctor know about this? Well, it's simple. You can't patent a food. That's a food. And if you can't patent it, you can't protect it. If you can't protect it, you can't charge $10,000 a shot. So the AMA never did want that. Did everything they could to discourage people. But you got guys like John's father writes a book called Laetrile Case Histories. 6,000 people he treated and saw the end of a Derringer, a gun, and then thrown in jail and lost his medical license. This book is 62 people like me that had stage 4, and then suddenly they were good. Wow. So I'm not the only one. And then the second thing they want to know is, how did you know when you were better? I mean, if it's so cheap to use, people don't believe it. In fact, I got a letter here. I think I showed it to you last time, so we won't park on it. But that's a letter from the Mayo Clinic. See the stationery and the signature at the bottom. It's dated May 19th, 1975, so about a year after I was treated. And it says, in regard to your question that people have asked, questioning whether or not you had cancer in the first place, you are quite right. You had high-grade embryonal cell carcinoma. So many people thought I was lying. The American Cancer Society put it in a newspaper that said, the young man that spoke at the something library, it may be that he never had cancer at all. So you know what I did? I clipped the article and I sent it to the Mayo Clinic and said, guess who's getting sued? Look in the mirror. I'm going to own the 3rd floor of that hospital because the American Cancer Society called me a liar. I didn't lie. That means you did. 8 hours of surgery and there was nothing wrong with me? Oh, you're in a lot of trouble. Wow. So they come back with this letter that says my slides are preserved in paraffin at the Mayo Clinic if a licensed MD wants to go look to make sure that I didn't fib about it. Wow. They wanted to stop it because this was cutting into their profit. This is a few $1,000s to do. This is about the price of a used car today. And surgeries like I had and the chemos that they have today, $500,000 that the insurance company pays. And if you don't have insurance, the taxpayer pays for it. So, oh yeah, these guys wanted to stop me no matter what. So
how long were you in Tijuana?
3 weeks.
3 weeks.
Yep. 21 days. And go ahead.
You left with that protocol, that diet, that regimen?
I did. They gave me, that's the second part of it. Let me tell you what the most dangerous time for a cancer person is, especially one that uses the alternative method, is when they tell you you're in remission. Because you know what most people do? Dodge that bullet. I can go back to party. And you see it on Facebook all the time. They're gone there and they're having their remission party. Yeah. Bring the champagne. We're going to meet at such and such a hotel. Bring the chocolate cake. We're going to live it up. And then 6 months, 9 months, a year later, they're back on Facebook in tears. Pray for me. It's back. You know? That is the most dangerous time. Because I was in the way and the Lord led me, I didn't quit when they told me I was in remission. I bought this stuff here and I took it home with me, smuggled it home, because then it was illegal to buy it and take it. Today you can buy it. rncstores.com, where I work, we sell it legally as an adjunct therapy, like high dose vitamin C. And if someone is really struggling, like I was, we have doctors that we refer you to that like this kind of stuff and they know what to do. Wow. If you're just, want to prevent illness, then you do what I'm doing now. I'm only taking 2 of these twice a day, the enzymes. I'm taking about 3 of these 100 milligram capsules of Laetrile and a couple of B15s. And I eat now I'm not like John. He eats about 40 of these a day, these seeds. And I eat about 6. I don't know, what do you eat? 3?
I eat about a dozen.
Okay. Yeah, so you're getting about 200 milligrams of Laetrile, B17, just with the seeds. So the next day, go ahead.
Oh no, I was going to say, so the book, The World Without Cancer, that had already been published when this was happening with you?
Yeah, World Without Cancer was a little bit after I had been down there, a couple of years. And we have a way that your listeners, your viewers, can get it for free. If you want to put that up, I'll tell them how to get it. But what they do is go to a browser and type myworldwithoutcancer.com. That's all. That's all you put in your browser. And this book is the Bible on what I did to get well. The first half of the book is, what is Laetrile? Where does it come from? Who thought for it? Who was the first guy that thought, I know, let's just eat a lot of this stuff so we don't get sick? I don't know. But first half of the book is about B17 and the enzymes. The second half of the book is about government and why they drove us underground, the financial greed that they were exercising, that isn't fair. The people like John's father, I don't know if his picture, oh yeah, I got his picture right here. John's father, who spent time in the slammer because of treating 6,000 people with this same protocol I used. So get this book. It's free. You don't have to have a credit card for them to send you an electronic copy of this book, a PDF. No one's going to make you buy something later, but get the book. because whatever question you come up with, except, Rick, have you always been such a creepy guy? This book is going to have that answer. Straight up. Yeah.
So
and that's free.
We're coming towards the end of our time, but I want to know how did you and John get? So John Richardson is the CEO of RNC Store. He's carrying on his dad's legacy, A World Without Cancer and Laetrile. And when did you guys get connected, and how did you guys meet?
That story is another I being in the way. I'm speaking at a convention in 2019, and I'm outside taking a breath of fresh air, and this 12-year-old boy walks by with a T-shirt on that says Laetrile works. And I'm going, we're so used to being underground. Yeah. And I said to him, hey, I like your T-shirt. He turns around and says, thanks. I said, what's your name? He said, Jason Richardson. Richardson, is Dr. John Richardson your grandfather? He says, yeah, but Grandpa died. I said, yeah, I know. But you're in the Richardson family. He says, yeah. I said, what are you doing here? He says, we have a booth. And we have Laetrile products there. I said, you do? He said, yeah. He said, come on in and meet my dad. His name is John Richardson, too. So that was when we met. Now, here's the kicker. We never spoke again until 6 months ago. And he called me up on the phone. He says, what are you doing these days? I said, not much. A little bit, a little bored. He said, why don't you come work with us? I know about your story. I've seen your book, Too Young to Die. They can get this on our website. And by the way, your people can save money by if they want to get these products, not required to get the big book. They can go to rncstore.com. And if they order anything like that, at the end, there'll be a discount code line. And you write, get on the ark. Yes?
Yeah, GOTA.
Oh, you don't have to write it out.
Right, GOTA, that's the discount code.
Okay, thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah.
GOTA. And if you do that, you save money. I don't get paid if you use that.
You don't either.
Yeah, you don't either. The guys doing the work don't get paid.
Right.
So, but your listeners get to save, I think it's 10% with that savings. And that's how I met John Richardson at a Frank Cousineau Cancer Control Society meeting. Wow. Where I spoke. And John had a booth there. And then for all those years, we never spoke again until 6 months ago. So, God has a way of making let me see how complex I can make this.
Yeah.
It just the way, go ahead.
God is so good at bringing people together and divine appointments, and he aligns it, and you can fight it, but he's going to bring you right back to where he wants to take you. So it's awesome what God does.
Let me close with this. Yeah. You need to be thanked and congratulated because you, Darren, are part of the solution, not the problem.
Amen.
And our society is full of people that are part of the problem. They eat anything, they drink anything, they don't take care of themselves at all. And so they become burdens on their families, on society, when the solution could be a food, just like scurvy was cured with oranges and limes. This is a metabolic disease, in my opinion. And by eating these bitter almonds or taking the capsules, if you don't like the almonds, that can be preventative.
Right on. Well, we're looking to have a world without cancer. So thank you for your time and sharing your testimony. And go to rncstore.com. use the discount code GOTA to get 10% off. And you know, a bag of apricot seeds, which will last about 5 months, is like $28 or $30, or it's like,
what do they want? You know, I mean, yeah, really. And we have things like apricot oil you can put on your face,
yeah,
to make yourself younger.
yeah.
In my case, it didn't work, but yeah, it's nice. It does. It smooths out the wrinkles, and
Yeah.
you're not putting synthetics, chemicals on your skin. You know. So what did I leave out? Anything else you want me to?
No, but it's all natural. It's apricot seed equals apricot seed. It's all God-made natural stuff that, you know, heals your body. And I know the science. I heard the science and the story about it. You know, and it's exciting what Laetrile will do, and it attacks the bad cells, and it's awesome. I'm glad I got introduced to it.
Well, let's do this again next year, because I'm sure, you know, I'll have new stories, new things going on, and John as well. Yeah, the last 6 months have been a blur.
Yeah. Well, I love the RNC store. I think it's great what John is doing, and I appreciate you and what you're doing, and however we can support you. You know, having you on our show, it might not be another year, maybe another 6 months or so. But the more people we can get this message out to, that really helps people and changes people's lives. So I appreciate your time, and thank you for getting on the Ark.
You're welcome. It was nice being on the Ark.
Yes. And thank you for watching Get on the Ark. And until next time, God bless you.